And we are joined this morning by Senator John McCain. Welcome back to This Week.
Thank you, George.
So Speaker Pelosi hopes to post the details of this deal on the internet around noon today. Is this something you can be for?
Again, I'd like to see the details, but hopefully yes, and the outlines that I've read of it, that this is something that all of us will swallow hard and go forward with. The option of doing nothing is simply not an acceptable option.
Have your principles been met?
Yes. Yes. Protect the taxpayer, make sure that there isn't excessive compensation for CEOs, a oversight body, not leaving all the decisions in the hands of one individual. There's other provisions that I think are met here, and frankly, I think that the people up on the Hill deserve great credit that conducted these negotiations. I think that Secretary Paulson does, and I think that we saw both a bipartisan and bicameral approach to this that is welcome.
It looks like Senator Obama is also going to support the deal. He put out a statement this morning, but he said it's also time now for Washington to show that it gets the urgency of the crisis on Main Street as well. It says Congress has to pass a stimulus plan for the middle class, which extends unemployment benefits, adds infrastructure funding, and sends money to the states to shore up their budgets. Are you for that as well?
I am for keeping taxes low. I am for whatever steps we think we need to be taken right now. But first of all, let's get this off the table. Let's get this deal done, signed by the president, and get moving. Because the real effect of this is going to restore some confidence and get some credit out there and get the economic system moving again, which is basically in gridlock today.
You said keep taxes low, so not necessarily for another stimulus package?
I'll have to look at it. But look, I'll be glad to look at anything to help our economy. We did a stimulus package a few months ago, as you well know. It had very little beneficial effect. I would like to see incentives for businesses to grow and locate. That's lower taxes. That's ways of making credit and funds available for them. Of course, we have to rebuild our infrastructure. I'd like to see along with that stimulus package, if it comes up, a commitment that would be no earmarks. That was one of my criteria also. No earmarks. Stop all the pork barrel spending. There are just 2,000 earmarks in the continuing resolution that we just passed. The outrageous pork barrel spending.
That was the vote yesterday to fund the government through next year. Yep. Also funded defense through next year. It included loans for the auto companies to help them get through it.
That's the way they always do. You put in the good deals, and then you put in the pork.
Why didn't you come in to vote on
that? I was working on all of the other stuff that I was working on and contacting people and working away. But the point is, it's the classic package where they give you the things you know that you really need in it, and then they load up and lard up the pork.
So you would have voted against it had you come in?
I certainly would have done everything in my power to remove those earmarks, but I may have voted for it if I probably would have ended up voting for it. But I decry a system where individual members are faced with taking all this unacceptable, outrageous stuff that has contributed to the largest growth in spending since the Great Society. We've grown the government by 40%. And by the way, the tripling and quadrupling of pork barrel projects and earmarks in the I can't tell you how many billions of dollars. And so we would be faced with a Hobson's choice there, and it shouldn't be like that. People should be able to vote on separate issues.
You also mentioned this immediate credit crisis we're facing in the banks. That's why you feel we have to pass this financial bailout
for the
right now.
taxpayers and middle-income Americans of America.
I was talking yesterday to Larry Lindsey, President Bush's former economic advisor, and he warns of a parallel crisis in the banking system, this freezing up of credit. There were billions of dollars in withdrawals from the banks last week.
Yes.
We saw the failure of Washington Mutual, the potential failure of other big banks, and he says this is another immediate crisis that the bailout plan doesn't address, and that what needs to be done right now is have Congress step in and guarantee all deposits in all transaction accounts today. Do you believe that's necessary?
I don't think so. Immediately, I think it's a looming crisis. What I think a lot of us are hopeful is that this will restore some confidence throughout the economy. from small lending institutions to banks to other ways where people are able to get credit and loans and be able to conduct their businesses. But I think that Larry Lindsay's point is very well made. This is not going to all of a sudden, wow, everything is turned around, everything's going to be fine now. We've got a lot of other difficulties, including the continued decline in housing home values. That has to reach a point where it's stabilized, and again, hopefully will go up in America.
You made the extraordinary...
But let's look at this. Let's look at this particular proposal. Let's get it through the Congress and the Senate, and then sit down and see what else needs to be done before we say, got to do this, this, and this as well.
You made an extraordinary decision this week to suspend the campaign. You did end up debating. Democrats say it just wasn't necessary. In fact, many also say that it was unhelpful. Some Republicans as well. Congressman Barney Frank, talking to his colleagues, compared your involvement to Richard Nixon trying to scuttle the Vietnam peace talks in 1968.
Well, that's an interesting comparison. Look, I did what I thought was the right thing. I saw that they had an agreement that we're working on in the United States Senate. I'm sure it was a good agreement. It wasn't as good as the one we have now. I saw that the House of Representatives was not engaged, the Republicans in the House of Representatives were not engaged in the negotiations. I understand that. They're the most fiscally conservative people. And so I came back. And it wasn't because of me that the House of Republicans and the House of Representatives got into the negotiating and bargaining, which was vital. It had to be bipartisan and bicameral. But they did it themselves.
So what role did you play? How were you helpful, do you believe, in the process?
I will let you and others be the judge of that. I did the best that I could. I came back because I wasn't going to phone it in. America's in a crisis of almost unprecedented proportions. I should be doing whatever little I can to help this process. I'm a Teddy Roosevelt Republican. I got to get in the arena when America needs it. And if that judgment wants to be made, that whether I helped or hurt, I'll be glad to accept the judgment of history. But I'm never going to not get engaged when the taxpayers and middle class of America are in danger of losing everything literally that they've worked all their lives for. I'm going to be out working on it. I won't claim a bit of credit, okay, if that makes them feel better. But I'm going to be there working and trying to help solve this crisis. And I'm proud of John Boehner and Roy Blunt and Adam Putnam and all of the guys and men and women, Marsha Blackburn and others, who in the House of Representatives stood up and got into this negotiations and became part of the solution.
You mentioned this is an extraordinary crisis. We've really never seen anything like it in modern times. Warren Buffett calls it a financial Pearl Harbor. Alan Greenspan was on the show just a couple of weeks ago saying it looks more and more likely that we're going to be in a recession next year, whether you or Senator Obama become president. Yet neither one of you in the debate Friday night seemed willing to acknowledge that this could fundamentally transform your presidency and would necessitate fundamentally transforming your agenda. Why not?
Because all we know is we're in the most serious crisis that anybody can certainly in our lifetimes. We're working on a solution that will bring at least some kind of stabilization at best. There's still great economic, even if this plan works perfectly, there's still enormous economic challenges out there. And so we don't actually know what is going to be the beneficial results, although I think they're going to be very good. I'm confident that they're going to be very good. And so we've got to sort of take this thing as we see the situation evolve. But you've got to go back to also, in my view, fundamentals as to why we got to where we were. Fannie and Freddie, the greed and excess on Wall Street and in Washington, which Main Street had no culpability of. They were the innocent victims of. And we'll have to sit down now and work on other ways to try to make sure that we provide relief and that this kind of thing never happens again. Consolidations of the regulatory agency, putting new people in if they deserve to have better and more efficient see at the regulatory agencies.
In the past, you said you were for less regulations, maybe even a moratorium. Do you think now we're heading into an era where we're going to have enhanced regulation?
2 years ago, I said that I was worried about co-sponsored legislation because of the excesses of Fannie and Freddie that I saw. 6 years ago, I railed about corporate excess and not expensing stock options. I'm a Teddy Roosevelt Republican. I believe there's a role of government. I believe that government has to be part of the solution. I mean, regulation and oversight has to be absolutely essential. Teddy Roosevelt said, unbridled capitalism leads to corruption. I believe in it. I've been involved in reform of government from homeowners, from HMO patients' bill rights to campaign finance reform to taking on the tobacco companies to a long list of being a reformer of the excesses of government. And I'm proud of that record.